Yeah, the Red Sox lost last night, but I'm not really worried about it. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. Thank you very much for clicking on this video. The Red Sox just wrapped up their series against the Kansas City Royals, taking 2 out of 3 games officially, making that 3 series wins for the Red Sox in a row, putting them at 64-52 on the season, 12 games over 500. Still good for the top wildcard spot in the AL by 2.5 games. Unfortunately, they did lose a game in the division, now 4 back of the top spot. Just really unfortunate timing, if we're being honest. The Blue Jays played the Colorado Rockies, which just simply isn't a real major league team, right? I'm sorry, but I feel terrible for Rockies fans. That team is god-awful. So obviously the Blue Jays took care of those guys in incredible fashion. So just poor timing on the Red Sox side of things. But, you know, it's always weird coming into a series recap with a loss, right? Because it feels like, okay, well, you can't really be positive because the Red Sox just lost a game. But you have to look at the series as a whole, and I still think there are positive things to take out of it. Don't get me wrong. There are negative things to take out of it for sure, especially in that last game on the pitching side of things, right? You got Dustin May's first game in a Red Sox uniform, and it did not go incredibly well. You know, he looked good at points. Other points, he didn't look very bad and ended up kind of on a sour note here. He went 3 2/3 innings, gave up 6 hits, struck out 4, which I guess is solid. Only walked 1, which I guess is solid too, but he did hit 2 batters as well in this outing, ultimately giving up 3 earned runs. I don't know. I really wasn't expecting much from his start, if we're being honest, especially with how he's been this year. You know, it's one of these situations where it's like, okay, maybe there's something the Red Sox can unlock with Dustin May, get him back to what he was, you know, in these sort of short bursts before injuries with the Dodgers when he looked really good. The Red Sox did have him lean pretty heavily on his cutter last night, and it was pretty solid, right? It didn't get hit super well. It was actually his fastball that got hit more often than his cutter did. So maybe they're doing something there. I think this is sort of just a wait-and-see situation with Dustin May. I don't know if you actually get anywhere. My hopes genuinely just aren't incredibly high for who Dustin May could be with the Red Sox, but, you know, we'll see. That's all I can say is we'll see. The deadline edition that everyone was waiting for, Dustin May. Outside of Dustin May, the rest of the pitching staff didn't do incredibly well either. Jordan Hicks, he didn't walk anybody, so that's a plus, but he did give up a 3-run moonshot to Jonathan India, so while he didn't walk anyone, he still did not do well in his appearance. He had a good appearance in the middle game of this series, I'll give him that, but man, Jordan Hicks just cannot figure it out with this Red Sox team right now. Isaiah Campbell looked pretty much like Isaiah Campbell was supposed to look, right? Nothing too bad, nothing too great either, just sort of a innings-eating reliever. And then the offense was kind of silented by Michael Wacha, right? That's ultimately what happened there. Michael Wacha ended up going super deep into that game. He didn't really give the Red Sox anything. They couldn't really do anything against the Royals bullpen to finish this one out. It just wasn't a great game for the Red Sox overall. However, the series as a whole was definitely a bit of a different story here. Like, the first 2 games were absolutely fantastic pitching-wise. You had Garrett Crochet in the middle game give you 7 innings of 2 earned baseball. It was on only 4 hits, and he struck out 8 dudes. Right, I mean, that's a pretty solid number from Garrett Crochet. He continues to do ace things here. It was their 7th win in a row that Garrett Crochet helped them secure. You had Brian Bayo in the first game, continuing to look like he's really progressing into a legitimate top-of-the-rotation type starter. I'm not saying he's going to be an ace or anything like that, but a solid number 2 to number 3 pitcher is really what Brian Bayo is developing into. I mean, in this game, he ended up going 6 innings, allowed 1 run, but it wasn't an earned run, with 6 hits and 5 Ks. He's almost down to a sub-3 ERA. It's like 3.03 at this point. We're talking about a guy who going into August could end up being a sub-3 ERA pitcher. He's been absolutely fantastic this season, and he continues to be fantastic this season. In the bullpen, outside of Alcala and, you know, Jordan Hicks, it was pretty good, right? Chris Murphy continues to show why he was up here instead of Brennan Bernardino. He went 2 innings, no earned runs. He did hit a couple of guys, but he looked fantastic. Garrett Whitlock continues to look really good. I mean, you look at the back end of this bullpen, and it looks pretty solid outside of Hicks and then Alcala, but Alcala's no longer with the team, right? He was DFA'd midway through this series. So pitching-wise, you sit here and you're like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, outside that last game, I think they're still in good shape with their pitching staff. They just got to figure out a way to make that fifth spot in the rotation work. It felt like for a while you finally had a solution. Hunter Dobbins was going to be able to give you 5 innings of 2-3 run baseball, and you knew you were going to be able to keep yourself in this game. And there were times where Dobbins was going 6-7 innings. That doesn't happen anymore. Fitz wasn't doing that. Dustin May isn't doing that. Walker Buehler sure as hell isn't doing that, right? You got to figure out that fifth spot in the rotation, but once you do, the rest of the rotation still looks pretty good. And then again, you DFA Alcala, so okay, immediately it's an addition by subtraction. You got to figure out a way to get Jordan Hicks working. Now that you have Whitlock doing what he's doing, Weiser doing what he's doing, and Slayton on his way back, you can kind of move Hicks into maybe a lower leverage role situation, which would be absolutely fantastic if you get him, sort of some innings to just simply figure some things out here when you're up by 4, 5, 6 runs. Maybe that's the role you keep Jordan Hicks in. But, I mean, again, you look at it and it's like, okay, yeah, you lost the last game, but you won the first 2, and your pitching in the last game looked terrible. In this one, it looked pretty good. And the same thing could be said about the offense. There were 3 guys that really stood out in this series. Romy Gonzalez, Jarren Duran, and Trevor Story all kind of popped off in this one. Romy Gonzalez had 2 hits in every single game here. He scored 3 runs. He drove in 2 runs throughout the series as a whole. He is starting to hit righties as well as he's hitting lefties. He's just absolutely crushing everybody right now. We're genuinely midway through August here, or early on through August. I don't know what you want to call it. We're in August at the end of the day here. And Romy Gonzalez, I think at this point, he's making a legitimate case to be an everyday player, right? If I'm the Red Sox right now, I'm telling Abraham Torre to grab a seat, buddy, right? Romy Gonzalez is coming in here, and he's going to play every single game because it's no longer an onslaught against lefties. He's still doing that, don't get me wrong, but right now he's hitting from both sides of the plate here, or he's hitting from both sides of the mound here, and he's being a really productive player. I want to see Romy Gonzalez in more games going forward. I don't care if it's at second base. I don't care if it's at first base. Figure out a way to get him into games more often than he was before, and use him as an everyday player until this hot streak runs out. Jarren Duran had at least 1 hit in every single game here, including a home run and a double. This dude has found himself a power stroke here lately, and it really does make this team look totally different. I mean, Jarren Duran coming in and being sort of not a power guy, right? He's never going to be a guy who's going to hit 25, 30 home runs, but being a guy who's an extra base machine, who's a home run potential in the middle of that order really makes the Red Sox look a whole lot better. I love the lineup construction when the Red Sox go Roman Anthony, Alex Bregman, and Jarren Duran, because Duran hits really well with runners in scoring position. He's going to get a ton of opportunities to do that with Roman and Bregman in front of him. So I really hope that's something the Red Sox continue. But I mean, Jarren Duran looked fantastic in this series. So you know who else looked fantastic? We already named him. I don't know why I said that. Trevor Story. Trevor Story also had 5 hits in this series. He had at least 1 hit in every single game. That OPS for Story slowly creeping up there. Remember we were talking about Story at the beginning of the season, and it was like May coming into June, and we were talking about how he was one of the worst hitters in Major League Baseball to that point in the year. Yeah, his OPS is now a 735. It's not the greatest OPS in the world, but it's a 102 OPS plus. He is now an above league average hitter when it comes to his OPS at this point in the year. I think it's high time I sit here and apologize to Trevor Story. I was pretty hard on him. I mean, we did an entire video about the idea of actually DFAing Story and moving on from him towards the end of June. And while I think at the time that was a warranted video, I have to apologize for saying he wasn't going to be able to figure it out, because he absolutely has, and he's become a legitimate weapon for this Red Sox team. I still don't love him in that 4-hole for the Red Sox. I would prefer him at like 5 or 6. I think that'd be a little bit better, but who cares, right? If he's producing, what does it matter what position he's in the lineup, right? And right now, he is producing day in and day out for this Red Sox team, and you got to tip your cap to a guy who's totally turned it around. So there were a lot of positives in this series, I think, right? You take a look at one loss here, and I think it kind of drags down the momentum the Red Sox had for sure, but I don't think it stops it entirely. We did also have a bit of an injury scare in this series, so I wanted to give you guys an update on that, because Carlos Narvaez in the middle one of this 3-game set ended up actually kind of pulling up at first base. He was limping towards the dugout, slamming his helmet on the ground, right? He ended up staying in the game but didn't start the 3rd game of this series because he was getting MRIs on his knee. That's a terrifying thought, right? Losing Carlos Narvaez would be a massive hit to this Red Sox team. 1, because Connor Wong isn't doing much of anything right now, but 2, Carlos Carlos Narvaez has been an absolute leader in the battery for basically every single pitcher on this team, right? He's a big reason why you saw a lot of step forward for a lot of these guys in the rotation this year. He's been absolutely incredible and knows the game, at least catching wise, a lot better than a lot of guys do. So losing him would have been absolutely debilitating. Luckily, once he got those MRIs done, it ended up being he's just simply sore. He's just simply sore. And we talked about this, right? The fatigue is going to start to hit Carlos Narvaez at some point this year, and this is exactly what we were kind of expecting. He's going to sit a couple of games. The goal is to get himself back and ready to go, hopefully for Friday in San Diego. Worst case scenario would be Saturday in San Diego, so he's not going to miss a ton of time, but this is something to pay attention to going forward. This is someone the Red Sox absolutely cannot afford to lose. They need to make sure that he's okay, and the only way to do that is to get Connor Wong ready and going again. And, you know, he did have a hit in the finale of this series, so maybe he's getting going a little bit, but, I mean, outside of that, it's really the only option here. You can't push Narvaez to end up breaking before you get to the postseason, or if you're going to make a postseason push, you need to make sure that that guy's healthy. Is probably a better way of wording that. So while it does always kind of feel off making a video after a loss, right? You sit here and it feels a bit disingenuous to just sit there and be like, this loss doesn't really matter, right? The Red Sox are still cooking. Who cares about a bad game? Because a bad game does bring a little bit of, red flag-ish type stuff to the surface that you need to start paying attention to, but that's genuinely how I feel. Right, I genuinely feel like, okay, this was a loss. It sucks, but the Red Sox aren't going to win every single game for the rest of the year. And if they go 7 days without losing a baseball game, it's okay to lose one once in a while. The important part, in my opinion, is to not let this compound, right? We've seen throughout the year so far these sort of stretches where the Red Sox let these kind of losses, especially losses towards the end of a series, could sort of, tumble a little bit, right? Where all of a sudden you're looking up and it's 3 or 4 or 5 losses in a row. You can't have that happen at this point in the year. You have a little bit of wiggle room right now, right? You set yourself up pretty nicely in the wild card spot, but you don't have a ton. You've got basically 2 games here that you can kind of mess around with. So you can't really afford to let this sort of fall into despair for a little bit before you pick yourselves back up. And recently, the Red Sox have been pretty good at that, right? Series losses to the Cubs didn't really deter them. Series losses to the Phillies didn't really deter them. They still were able to not only salvage those series, but go into other ones and continue to compete here. So the hope is that they've got this goldfish mentality. The hope is that they sit there and they say, you know what, we're good, right? That's fine. It sucks, but vibes are still high, right? You still won 7 games in a row. You're still top of the AL in the wild card. You're still within shooting distance of the division. You still locked up the best prospect in the sport for the next 8 years, really 9 if you consider this year as one of those years. I can't sit here and be totally mad, right? I still think they're on fire. They're still cooking with gas here. The hope is that this one little stumble doesn't put those burners out, and I have faith that it won't, right? But the schedule coming up is going to be pretty difficult. You've got the Padres, and then you're going over to Houston to face the Astros. Those are 2 really good teams. Yes, you just swept the Astros, but that doesn't mean it's a guaranteed you're going to do it again. And the Padres, they traded for quite literally every single available player at the trade deadline this year. So they're a new, improved, revamped team. They're fighting for a wild card spot. Going to be a bit of a bloodbath. And like I said, you can't really afford to lose a bunch of those games. So we'll see how it works out. But for right now, I'm not worried about the Boston Red Sox. But I am curious about your opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? What did you think about this series? What did you think about the ending of this series? Does it raise red flags for you? Are you sitting there like me where it's like, yeah, you stumble a bit, but let's just hope you don't fall? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.